Let's talk about the Spurs winning the lottery. Victor Wembanyama will be a San Antonio Spur, which how irrational is that of me for that to bother me, TJ? You can be honest that like it's already reported as fact that the Spurs like Victor Wembanyama is a Spur. That I don't know why that bothers me. It shouldn't. It's a very minor thing, but I think it just kind of like. I don't know. It's like, what's the point of watching the draft now? Because you're already admitting that he's number one. Like, we need some sort of suspense, right? Isn't that part of the fun?
Is there any chance that they trade out of the pick?
No. So I'm thinking through, like, what if he's waving a gun on Instagram? How big of a there's the hypothetical. How big of a gun would Victor Wembanyama have to be waving for the Spurs?
His arms are so long. Like that's a danger for like the entire European Union if he's waving a gun.
What could Victor Wembanyama do to get the Spurs to not take him number one at this point? No, it's a stupid complaint. Of course they're going to take him number one. I just like I don't know. I need to get over it. I need to get over it.
The Thunder have like 31 picks, and I think is the number before 2029. If they trade 10 first-round picks or 12 first-round picks, like what is the theoretical number of first-round picks that you would have to ship off?
Oh, in all seriousness, I don't think it's a first-round. It's no, because the having one surefire guy is worth more than like 12. Having one A++++ guy is worth more than 12 A- guys even. So they wouldn't do it for picks. I'm thinking of like how many singular players in the league would you trade for? Do the Celtics say we'll give you Jason Tatum for the number one pick? Which I still don't think the Spurs do that. Which maybe they do. I don't know. I'm not a GM. This is. I don't understand. I don't dabble in this stuff. I don't get how people like know how to be amateur NBA GMs on the internet these days. That's not my forte. But I would think like having like a surefire thing, like because Tatum, for all his flaws, like we know what he is and we know how good he is. I would think I would rather have that than the question mark. But I mean, Victor. How much of a question mark is he really? They were saying, like, you know what I should have been complaining about is not that they're saying he's going to the Spurs and that it's a done deal when I have to now watch the draft and then I have to see them put the Spurs on the clock and then the clock's like fucking ticking there and we're all losing our minds. We're like, we know the pick. Let's just get to the next one. I should instead be complaining about ESPN saying that he's the best prospect we've ever seen in basketball and all that sort of thing. That was wild. Yeah, because I can think of at least two guys very quickly that I heard about when they were like 13. Yeah.
Or I didn't. I was too young for LeBron when he was in high school, but certainly Zion Williamson, I saw clips of him as like an 8th grader dunking on people. And they were like, this is going to be the number one pick in 6 years.
You could argue that LeBron benefited from being an American, whereas Victor is not. And I think if Victor Wembanyama was playing high school basketball in Akron, Ohio, maybe there's more juice behind the hype than him just being some French dude that's like playing in a league that nobody knows, or even if you do know, you don't even know how to watch it. Yeah, but dude, I vividly remember LeBron James coming out of high school, and the hype for that man was on a completely. It's not even close. It's not even in the same stratosphere. Wembanyama's not even the same stratosphere. And also, LeBron had zero. There was like LeBron's floor was like Vince Carter probably. Like LeBron's floor was like
Hall of Famer.
Yeah. It's like at the very worst we're gonna see out of LeBron James, and then the second he steps into the league, he was dominating games. Wembanyama's probably going to be great. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. He's probably going to be very, very good basketball player. But I don't think if you have questions about his durability and about like a guy that tall holding up, like I don't think that's irrational to have those questions. I think that's a fair thing to say, and just like that alone should disqualify him from being like the biggest can't miss prospect we've ever seen entering the NBA. I think my real issue with it, if I'm being completely honest, Okay, so when's the draft? We still have like a month, probably like 5 weeks. I have time to decide, but I think I'm gonna hit the anti-Wembanyama button, TJ.
I was gonna say, should we just shit on him? That way,
I think I'm gonna do it.
The ones that are right when he doesn't become the greatest basketball player of all time.
Victor Wembanyama will not be the greatest basketball player of all time, and you can take that to the bank. That will not happen. That's a fact. No, I
imagine him going up against Jokic. Like the body matchups are so different. I have no idea what would happen, but you could assume that Jokic might like body up into Wembanyama and like blast him across the court because he's so like spidery.
I think he was shooting like 28% from three in his league. That's the other thing too. Is like you see like the right clip of him hitting threes, and you're like, oh my god, he's Steph Curry, but he's 7'4". But he's not. He just like hit that 1-3 that you saw. You didn't see the other 7 that he missed before that.
The ones that he misses, you see the replay of him like grabbing the rebound and dunking it all in one motion from the 3-point line.
Here's why I'm anti-Wembanyama though. I think Victor Wembanyama, and I talked about this a little bit with Sam Vecini, I think he marks the moment in time where we as Americans can stop being nice to the rest of the world with basketball. I think it's time for us. The Dream Team in 1992, they play in Barcelona. They are. It's kind of like the singular moment where basketball went global. It was just so freaking fun to watch them play, and all these, you just hear like all these other guys that came up in the NBA after that and talk about like, I just remember watching that team and I fell in love with the game because of those guys and all that sort of thing. And there's this initiative that's been going on from the NBA and others to spread the game across the globe, and it's worked wonderfully. And now you look up in 2023 and the NBA is littered with all sorts of guys from every corner of the globe. But I think Wembanyama marks the moment in time where we can stop. That's why I say, like, when everyone's coming up with like the mythical creature to compare him to, is he a unicorn? Is he a centaur? I think he's Frankenstein's monster, TJ. I think this is a monster that we as a country built, that we were trying to spread basketball around the world. And this is what we've done to ourselves. This is Victor Wembanyama. And with that, I think it's time for us to now put our foot down and say, to hell with all these. Like, I'm legitimately worried about the Olympics moving forward. I'm worried, especially when you look around and you realize that the young crop of American players, Ja Morant might be the face of American basketball, of like the youngest, like the early 20s guys. It might be Ja Morant, Like, you look at, here's an exercise for everybody listening. Think of the 5 NBA players that you hate the most, whether rational or otherwise. You're just like, God, I hate watching him. I hate his off-court drama. I hate that he flops, that he complains to the refs, whatever it is, whatever the 5 players that trigger you the most. And then think of the 5 guys where you're like, I love watching those guys play. They're so fun. I'm going to guess that the majority of the guys you hate are Americans, and the majority of the guys you love are not Americans. This is a serious problem we have, TJ, and I'm worried about the state of USA basketball moving forward. Like I said, last show, we are still the best country, but there is going to become a time where we will lose in the Olympics, and it won't be shocking anymore, and it'll like kind of make sense, and we'll go into an Olympics game not being favored. And I don't know if it's going to happen in France, probably not, but it could happen in 20 years from now. I just want to get ahead of that and say, I'm no longer doing my part. I'm not spreading the game. I will not be a basketball missionary anymore. When I travel all over the globe, I will not be spreading basketball. I will be keeping it for us, the Americans only, because this is Victor Wembanyama marks the moment in time where this is swung too far the other way. Yeah. And if France has this, that they're growing, we have to stop giving our resources to the rest of the world, and we have to just hoard them for ourselves. That's my stance. So for that reason, I'm anti-Wembanyama. Give me Scoot Henderson.
We're football globalists. We discussed this last time. We're not basketball. We're here to spread the word of the internet, the world football team.
That's exactly right. See, I mean, we have that attitude with hockey, right? Like if I told you I hate Canada's hockey team, you're like, of course, yes, you should. We all do. Yeah, I just want to I want to get to a point where the United States basketball team has a legitimate rivalry, and I think Wembanyama in France is going to be that rival. Especially Rudy Gobert's already got us halfway there. Like we can hate the French basketball team for him alone, I don't know. I'm just trying to get ahead of this. This is the whole game. This is the whole sports punditry game. You just got to get your takes. You got to be ahead of the curve here, TJ. So I think us being anti-Wembanyama is a good
it can only pay off unless he becomes the greatest basketball player literally ever. In which case, I guess we were wrong. But if he's even like just okay, we were right.
He might be though. That's the thing. That's what's scary.
He might actually break the way people play basketball.
I think he might, but he's. I think the injury concerns are fair. Like a guy that big is. I just need to see a guy that big just not get injured for a long stretch. Like every other example we have, they have injury problems. I don't know. We'll see. Or maybe Chet Holmgren can save us. Maybe our only hope is Chet Holmgren, who's also like he's like 2 inches shorter than Wembanyama, but very similar. Maybe that's what we need. If Chet ever plays, but Chet's hurt all the time too. Yeah, the Hornets are essentially on the clock. I wonder who they're going to take. That'll be interesting because Scoot seems like he should be the pick, but I'm fascinated by Scoot and LaMelo Ball coexisting. I don't know how that's going to work out. So then you feel like, is it Brandon Miller? Is that the pick? Are those the two guys that are vying for number 2? The Thompson twins are good. I need to get Sam back on the show. Sam has to break this all down for me because there's way too many guys in this draft that didn't play in college. And then the one guy who did play in college, well, there are more than one guys at the top, but the one guy who's like has a chance to go number 2 that did play in college is Brandon Miller, who sucked ass in the NCAA tournament, and also had a controversy, we'll say. Also,
get him on the Grizzlies.
Him and Ja can hang out together.
They got a lot in common.
And then like Cam Whitmore's up there, who played at Villanova, was hurt at the start of the year, and then played in the NIT, and nobody really saw him play. Like he didn't grab America's attention either. I don't know. This is a bad draft for college basketball, TJ. I think that's why I got to go anti-Wembanyama as well. It's just there's a lot of things lining up that's bad for America. This is a bad draft for America.
The odds makers have Scoot second, Brandon Miller third, and then the Thompsons going 4 and 5.
4 and 5. Who goes first? Amen Thompson or
yes.
All-Star? Amen's better. Okay. Well, there you go. The Pacers will get Grady Dick at 7. Is that what it says? Is that what the mock draft says?
Doesn't go that deep, but I wouldn't be surprised. He'll be a great pacer or like a jazz legend.
I like Grady Dick a lot. I don't need to see him in a Pacers uniform. That's all. I want him to play somewhere else, and I'll cheer for him. But when the Pacers draft him, I'm just gonna nod along and just be like, yeah. That feels about right. Pacers have never won the lottery, TJ. The Spurs have won 3 now. You get David Robinson, you get Tim Duncan, you get Victor Wembanyama. It's not right. It doesn't add up.
NBA rigged.
He seemed really excited to go to. I didn't even make the Tony Parker and Boris Diaw connection until he pointed that out. But this seemed like preordained. This makes me think it is rigged because like Victor Wembanyama, like I saw the clip of when the Rockets.
Yeah.
When the Rockets popped up and he smiled and was excited, and he's like, "Thank God I don't have to go there." I don't know.
Well, what were your thoughts? People were shitting, or not shitting, but there was a couple tweets about the ESPN sending Windhorst all the way to Paris to do a 70-second interview.
I love Windhorst, so I think that's one of those deals where if it was anybody else, I would hate it, but because it's Windhorst, I was like, hell yeah, let's go. Windhorst built his career by basically just following LeBron around, but he's very self-aware about it, and he it's like what I talked about earlier. He's kind of transparent about it, and I don't know, maybe people will disagree, but I never really felt like he had much of an ego. I feel like Windhorst is pretty self-aware of his position in media, where he's like, I'm good at what I do, but also I understand that like if I wasn't, just picking up LeBron's laundry for him here and there, I probably wouldn't have my job. But that's so I've always kind of liked him for the role he's played, and then he won everybody over with the finger wagging, and which he ended up being absolutely right about with the Jazz trading all their players. So I didn't have a problem with him going, but yeah, the idea of doing it is a little absurd. Like, what? Especially just because he's like, "How does it feel, Vic?" And he's like, "Feels good, man. Feels real good." All right, guys, back to you.
Just the concept of like, it took him longer to tie his shoes before he left his hotel room than it did for him to do the work that he like flew like 12 hour or 8 hours for.
He was on the He was on the tarmac on the flight over for a longer period of time than he was actually talking to Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah. His in-flight meal took longer to eat than.
But as LeBron James is 38 years old, I think that's what makes it so funny. Is that like it's not about this one interview. It's about like
setting the precedent.
The implication that this is what the next wave of Brian Windhorst's career is, that he's now going to fall around Victor Wembanyama.
He's just hitting a big reset button. Yeah.
And he's going to do it with him.